Afolabi. Oh, is Afolabi. I'm not sure he's an Android developer, but he's a software engineer, and we've been colleagues twice at Agromall and Softcom, and I think he has a very interesting career story, and I'm also looking forward to learn a lot from him. So we welcome Ace to the stage. I hope he doesn't hear me.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for the sake of having the camera. Yeah, so Ace, like Toby said, been working as an Android dev, I mean, professionally for about, I think, 5 years. I can't, I'm not really sure, but like, yeah, for about 5 years, working professionally as an Android dev. For, like Toby said, I'm no longer an Android dev. Currently working on like autonomous systems and some other things, like but that was pretty recently. So up until about a month ago, I've been a professional Android dev, with like career-wise. Yeah. Do you I don't know, Toby, do you want me to like get in, or do you want to like do something else before I like start rambling on?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay then. Yeah, so I think I'll just split this in, 4 sections, which I'll quickly talk about how I started, where I started from, and how I got into Android development and into software development in general. And then from then on, I'll talk about all of the jobs I've done in between, all of the different roles, most of them weren't, okay, not most, but a lot of them weren't even Android, but we'll talk about those roles. And then I'll also talk about where I am now, but I mean, more realistic to be where I was a month ago, but yeah, I'll be talking about that. And then I'll just talk about what's next for me, what I plan on doing in the future. And yeah, so in terms of where I started, so I kind of started, well, there's this very, I don't know if it's interesting, but it's a story about when I was, I think around 10. I used to watch the show iCarly. I don't know, probably some people know about iCarly, but yeah, I used to watch the show iCarly, and when I was little, when I was 10. And then there's a character there, just a short description. It's a show about like some teenagers, some kids who run like a web show, and like there's a character there called Freddy that worked on the website, and it was like, I think it was about like my age, maybe like between 12 or something, or 13. But yeah, it was pretty young, and even though it's fiction, but I was kind of impressed by that, by how um so I was able to do that kind of thing. And then I got into programming when I was then, or I didn't get into programming. I had to first learn how websites even worked, and how things like that worked. And I was looking up online. I was very privileged to have like internet and access to internet in my home back then. And yeah, I pretty much was looking up online how to make websites. Well, I was seeing like terrible website builders that were very useless. And then eventually I ran into like this thing called like HTML, and I was like, oh, this is code. And I realized, and then I learned that code is like what powers websites, what powers apps, what powers software. Yeah, so that's pretty much like my, I don't know if it was interesting, but that was my short intro into programming. So pretty much all of my teenage years, since I was like 10, up until up until all of my teenage years, I was doing hobby projects here and there, learning about I think pretty much all of the website, all of the languages I know to this up until this point. Like I think 80% of them were like first encountered when I was a teenager. So which is a good time to kind of play around because you don't really have much responsibilities. You don't have to like work full time in a particular language. You can decide to do a small project in Java today and do another small project in Python the next work. So it was very formative year for my programming career in general. And then I ended up going to Covenant University for 2 years before I dropped out. So yeah, university dropout. But yeah, I did like a short stint in university for 2 years before I dropped out, and then basically started working from then. Basically started working from then, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into, community groups because most of those things are done when you're in university, and most of those outreach is done when you're in university. But I wasn't able to like get into groups. I was mostly learning on my own, and with the internet. That was pretty much it. But yeah, that's pretty much like how I got into software development. And with Android development, while I was in secondary school, I think that was in 2013 or 12. I think 2013 or 12. I like learned. There was this what's it called? There was this. I don't know if it was a competition or if it was a outreach. I can't remember what it was, but it was something about MTN talking about like making Android apps, and I was like, oh, okay, what's that? And then I actually got into Android. That was my first foray into Android development, and that was and I was doing that as a hobby, most like because I was still a teenager. But up until I dropped out of Covenant University, and then that's when I actually started programming full time. That was in 2016. Yeah, so it's been about 5 years. Yeah, so that was in 2016, and yeah, so now I'll just talk about like all of the things I've done from then up until my most recent job. So first of all, dropping out of school is a very, very big decision. And in terms, I started freelancing, building a lot of small websites and apps for clients. I was doing web development with Python, Django, and React back then. Yeah, but I was also doing Android development, and back then it was Android was very chaotic. This was in like 2016/17. Android development was very chaotic. There was the MVP pattern, but that wasn't even very popular. That didn't become like popular till like 2017/18. So it was very built like you were having all of your network calls, database management, all in one activity, that kind of stuff. It was very, very unstructured back then. But then that was also kind of what made it kind of more challenging. You have to figure out how you wanted to structure the project. And also because I was freelancing, so I was the sole developer on most of the projects I was working on. And so I had to kind of decide how I wanted to do things. It wasn't like okay, we have a code staff for our team. I was pretty much just doing everything back then. And it allowed me to get a core fundamental on, structuring, because I would like for instance, like I said, having all of your network calls in one activities, I would have that and then realize how hard it is for me to go back to that code and then look at it. And then I don't think I knew about like architecture patterns, but I knew that I couldn't have my network calls in my activity because it was just all over the place and hard to follow. So, I learned about structure, I learned about, okay, separation of concerns, things like that. So that kind of gave me a basic fundamentals into like structuring my Android code and things like that. Also, I think I learned Kotlin in like 2017. So also when I got into Kotlin, and I just ditched Java completely. Yeah, I also used Kotlin for some Spring Boot projects back then. I was still doing backend. But yeah, I was freelancing for a while. And, freelancing as a 17, 18, 19-year-old is not very financially sustainable. So I had to get like a full-time job. And then there's this company called Quick Check. I don't know if people know about it. It's a loan app, basically. And so yeah, it's a loan app, and then they have the parent company called SeedStars, and another company under SeedStars is InvoiceSpeed. So I knew someone working at QuickCheck, and then because I was mainly at that point, I think maybe 60-70% of all of the things I was doing was with Python and Django. Android was mostly like maybe like 40% of some Android apps here and there, but mostly what I was doing was backend development and full stack development back then. And so I had someone working at QuickCheck, and then recommended me as a Python developer at InvoicePay, which was a new loan platform like targeted at merchants, which I kind of got into. And then yeah, I was pretty much using Django. This is like non-Android related, but I'll just go over it. I was using Django and React.js there, and building pretty much their loan management platform because this was more merchant based. The platform we're building was for our internal team, our credit risk analyst, our business management teams, and things like that. Yeah, so I was pretty much building that loan management system. I think we're like three Python developers there. The React.js wasn't actually much because it was already kind of built, and because once again it was a internal tool, so we weren't changing much front end wise. Like I think maybe we would touch the React.js code like maybe once in like 2 weeks. So it was mostly on the back end, like running services and building tools and like automating tools and things like that. But the app was mainly to like automate our credit risk analysis process there. Yeah, well, that was what I was doing at InvoiceSpeed, and I actually realized a bit earlier on, but I realized fully at InvoiceSpeed that I didn't really enjoy doing web development. It was all I didn't enjoy doing it as much as I enjoyed doing Android. I really prefer doing Android. I was playing out with a lot of Android process, and I started like focusing on computer vision on Android, played around with some OpenCV projects, did a bunch of stuff with Android, but most of those were like personal projects, and I never like really fully. Okay, I did like one freelance project within that period, but most of the projects I was doing were like personal Android projects. And then I started like I was working a lot on Android, and then Pluralsight had this thing called Skill IQ service, which they kind of you take like a test thing, and then they kind of rank you among other people that like took the test, and then give you like a rank with expert, proficient, and I can't remember more. Yeah, they rank you, and I took it, and I did like pretty well. I did really well. I got like the expert score. I think I was in like the 80 or 90% plus. I think I was in 90% plus percentile. So I did really well there, and I got reached out to by a Pluralsight. I don't know if it's a Pluralsight recruiter, but I got reached out to someone from Stack Overflow, which I really just like a side note. A lot of people don't realize like how much opportunities are from like could come from Stack Overflow. I think so. My jobs I've worked with, I've done, came from Stack Overflow. So it's worth like most people focus on like LinkedIn, make your LinkedIn good, make your GitHub good. But then a lot of recruiters actually, look at Stack Overflow profiles and reach out to people based on that. And I had my skill IQ on my Stack Overflow profile, and I got reached out to develop Android assessments for other skill IQ topics. So they had a general Android skill IQ questions, and then they were looking to build more Android skill IQ topics, like more varying subjects. And so so I got that, and it was a great opportunity for me to leave web development and then get into something more Android related. I wasn't building Android applications, but it actually allowed me to learn more about Android fundamentals, because I was asking questions I was writing and developing questions and topics and subjects on Android development. And also all this time I was still like building test Android projects was I really enjoyed just doing Android development. And so that was a contract work for I think 9 or 10 months. Yeah, and basically I did that, and then I decided, and then at that point I decided that I wasn't going to go back to web development. I was going to stick to Android fully. But I was planning on like balancing both web and Android. But I just decided I was going to focus on Android fully. And so that was why I worked at Agrimo, where I first met Toby. And that was kind of like I guess that was my first full-time Android role. And at Agrimo, we're building, this proprietary Android app for managing farmers and farms. And because I had already been using Kotlin for like 2 years before that, or like 1.5 years before that, I guess. The code there was originally in Java, and so I had to like propose moving the code to Kotlin. So a lot of the time spent at Agrimo was writing Kotlin code, and also that was where I first got into clean architecture and started learning about proper like Android architecture. But before that, I wasn't like following a specific standard. Before that, I was like doing things my own way, which was all right, but there were a lot of things that could be improved in my architecture structure wise, and yeah, so I did a lot of architecture and a lot of study on like clean architecture, and just seeing how to properly separate concerns with Android applications. Also used, I think that was the first time I also used what's it called, dependency injection. Which surprised I got to. Well, in Android, I was using dependency injection with my Spring project. But in Android, that was my first usage of dependency injection. And then I started with like Coin, and then I got into Dagger. And yeah, I was able to get. Actually, I already used Dagger in the past. But that was a project. Was one of the freelance projects I did. But that was a project where I inherited code, and I was supposed to like make some changes to that code. But also, I used Dagger, so I had a concept of Dagger, but I never like wrote code to actually implement Dagger. So it was mostly just maintaining the code that I used Dagger. But yeah, that was my first time using like Dagger fully. So what I learned at Agrimo was mostly structure, a lot of, because before that I didn't really have structure hands down. And well, from Agrimo, I kind of felt limited my capacity at Agrimo. It's just pretty much a basic app. I wasn't really doing anything I felt passionate about there. And so I was looking to move around a company, and I think then I was considering both Andela and Softcom. I think I had offers from both, but I eventually, chose to go to move to Softcom. One, because Toby had already moved to Softcom, so I was like, okay, I know someone I just worked with, and they have a good recommendation there. And I also knew some people that also worked at Softcom. I had good recommendations from that company. So one of the big things with that move is, and it kind of influenced every move I make, is I need to know someone who I'm going to, that or have some reviews about who I'm going to, and then I can get, because I worked in places where it wasn't the best. I wouldn't have gone there if I knew about that. If I wouldn't have gone there if I knew like how, like what they were building and things like that. Yeah, like Agrimo, for instance. If I knew like the products being built, I probably wouldn't have done that, because it's not something I'm very passionate about. And yeah, it's pretty basic and limited. But then yeah, most Solomon, that's probably the most impactful role in my Android career, because I think that's like the longest I've spent in a place. I was there for 2 years. That's also the largest team I worked with. I think at a point we're about 100 devs in total at Source Command. We're about I think we had a peak size of like 11 or 12 Android developers at Source Command. So that was a big change to like from working with like I think maybe like 10 developers in total, and moving to working with like 100 developers. I mean, split across different teams, but having to work with so many developers. And I scaled up a lot. One, because of a lot of the brilliant devs at Sourcecom. I think everyone I know that's like gone through Sourcecom, like maybe it's just because of the kind of work being done at Sourcecom, like forces you to level up. But everyone that's gone to like that's I know at least Android dev and even other fields and stacks. Well, most of them have gone through Sourcecom. They kind of have to level up and they just grow a lot. So it's very inspiring seeing people grow, and then you meet like a lot of brilliant devs that really like everyone on the Android team at Sourcecom was really good at what they do. And yeah, so I really that was one of the reasons why I scaled up, because everyone was just good and it was very collaborative, and I got inspired by that. Just to also move out, and also just being with other brilliant people, and then sharing ideas and improvements and things like that. But then also too, because which I think is part of why I said I worked on some of the most challenging projects I've ever done at Sourcecom. I think I worked on an SDK for an identity platform where I had to use, which kind of brings back to learning about OpenCV and computer vision, where I had to use a lot of OpenCV and also Google ML kits. I had to use a lot of that. Yeah, so I had to use a lot of that to detect liveness. I had to use a lot of GNI, learned a lot about GNI, C++. I already knew C++, so it wasn't so hard, but I had to use a lot of GNI and a lot of native, in Android, native is C++. So I had to use a lot of like GNI connected with C++ to do things with OpenCV, because the projects we're running, Java's garbage collection isn't very efficient, especially with OpenCV, because OpenCV itself in Java isn't really written in Java. It's actually written in C++ and then connected via GNI to Java. So because of that, garbage collection was terrible. And for the things we're doing, because we're looking at live camera feeds, which would accumulate data every single frame, and that would probably be running like 20 plus frames per second. That just like builds up. If you don't properly collect that, or you have a memory leak, that quickly builds up. I have issues. So I had to, so that's where using stuff in C++, and thankfully I had a background which it's part of why I'm really happy that I got into programming so early, and I got to play around with a lot of things, because my teenagers played around. I did a lot of C++, and so getting into that was pretty easy. And yeah, so using C++, using GNI, memory management, and memory management and profiling. Also, like got me to learn a lot about systems internals, like how to find a memory leak, using heap dumps, using the Android profiler. That project really challenged me with things I never really like gotten to use. And also had to work with a variety of fingerprint scanners and like use their SDKs. Some of them also require GNI, and use their SDKs to connect to the Android platform. And part of those things also forced me to learn a lot and embrace abstraction as a concept. So because I think I did the first fingerprint, integrated the first fingerprint scanner into the app as an option. Then I did the same thing for the second one. And then when I did this for the second one, I already realized that, it's the same process in general. It's the same process of initialize the fingerprint scanner and then actually scanning fingerprint. And then I was about to do the third one, and I realized, this is essentially the same thing. I should have abstracted this from the start. And so it forced me to like learn a lot of abstraction concepts. So I had to like abstract, like in that particular project, I had to abstract like fingerprint scanners as a separate module. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, cuts stuff. So I had to embrace a lot of fingerprint scan. Sorry, I had to embrace a lot of abstraction in looking at fingerprint scanners and making it so it's not one. Making it so you can pretty much plug in any fingerprint scanner and then just implement all of those things. So what I really learned about it was how to abstract properly, because I faced a lot of problems with abstraction there. And yeah, it's that was one of the things I had to learn. Another thing I had to learn was using continuous integration and continuous development, CI/CD, and also like writing bash scripts, because we had to do not just continuous integration and deployment for like running tests or running like spotless or things like that, but also because we actually had to build custom versions of the applications. Yeah, we had to build custom versions of the applications with bash scripts and then deploy those to different people, to different like organizations. So that had to be set up in a way where it's customizable. And I don't like CI/CD with like regular pipeline, this bucket pipelines. Run your spotless checks, run your unit tests, and you're good. But then I had to like write bash scripts and then run these bash scripts and then generate an APK and customize your code and then generate an APK and then send that out to servers. That was like I leveled up a lot in terms of writing CI in generating a workflow for CI and CD. And also I worked on another project area which wasn't super challenging, but it was challenging in the sense that it's pretty much the largest code base I ever worked on. I think we had about 22 modules or something at some point. There were a lot of modules, a lot of code, and a lot of connected parts. And it was kind of a feature module project, and it got me into learning about how to learn about just how to manage such a large project and connecting all of these kind of features tightly together. Yeah, and another thing I also learned was kind of how to decide on libraries, things to use, because up until then I've worked with RxJava, I worked with coroutines. I mean, I've even worked with like just using regular threads with Volley like in the past. But at that point, I had to because I already like had so much options. I had to weigh, or I had to learn how to weigh several options, and then see kind of what would be the best use case for this particular for this particular library. Would it be the best here? Which do I want to stick with, and things like that. But what I learned there is a lot of times it's mostly down to personal preference when you're dealing with general projects. So unless you're dealing with very specific use cases, a lot of the libraries you'd use, it's generally down to personal preference, and it's not something you should really get too worked on, like, oh, RxJava is better than coroutines objectively, and that is, that is the objective, objective concurrency library to use, or I don't know if like Glide is the objectively better library to use than Picasso. So what I learned about that is, for specific use cases, where you might want to, I mean, if you're, for instance, you might have your code be 100% Kotlin, be 100% Kotlin, and then that could be a reason for you to maybe try out coroutines, or you might have your code 100% Java. That would obviously be a reason why you wouldn't use coroutines. So all about like weighing what specific scenarios actually make sense for different things, and then at the end, it would come down to which do you actually prefer working to. Yeah, that was one of the things I learned, because I had to work with a lot of libraries and kind of weigh options there. But yeah, Source was the most interesting role I had there, and also because it's the longest, just working for somewhere 2 years was a lot. And yes, but then I left Scotland to where I am, or where I was, like up until a month ago at ULSN, which is an education, an edutech platform for primary and secondary school students to kind of come on and learn and run. It has a very a high success rate. Really good product. But I was there. I started out at ULSN for about a month before the previous team lead then left, and then I had to like become the new team lead at ULSN, and that was like a new role for me. Managing a team and managing a project. Learn about one of the things that helped was back at Softcom. I had a really great team lead, which I learned a lot from. And so it wasn't too hard. And also because, we're just 3 developers. So it wasn't like I was managing an entire football team or something. It was just 3 developers. And it wasn't too hard to like manage and transition into that like new position. And also the knowledge I had with like architecture and structure. So everything I've learned before that kind of all came together to help. So everything I've learned with like architecture and structuring helped me, properly structure the project, properly get to a point where I can like make architectural decisions that I'm confident in. And also like with CI/CD helps, like cause so at ULSN, it's a growing startup. I think we've only been around for like a year and a few months plus. It's a growing startup, so there are a lot of features like going in and out. I think one of the things the former team lead like told me before this was like never delete code at ULSN because they are going to bring back their feature like another like in like 2 weeks they're going to bring back the feature. So it's a very fast-paced environment where I had to like develop features and like 2 days before deployment to production, like a feature would completely change and have to adapt to that. So some of the things that I did to help that was with continuous integration and continuous deployment, like setting that up. So, because the process with that would be, like manually you build, send that to QA, and then QA would have to kind of review and then all of that. And that whole back and forth was one of the things that was like delaying. So I had to like set up CI/CD to just once you build, once you deploy to your dev branch, that deploys to QA, and QA can test that incrementally. And then when you're about to do your like your UAT test or your like your final QA test before release, you can move that to a different branch, and then QA has everything. And then we had like release notes to kind of let the people know, let product managers, QA, and also backend developers and designers know what's in this particular release. And it's really like helped speed up like releasing to, before that releasing to production was hell. Like most of the times we would have to like come on weekends just like get things done because of how quickly features were changing and how quickly things needed to develop. And yeah, so that really helps because we could just work on something, deploy, and then talk to QA does their thing, gives feedback. And so it's a very smooth project. So the knowledge of my CI and CD scripts and like creating custom bash scripts to deploy to different people that I learned at Softcom also like helped me then to structure that properly. And so something I've never been that to like get used to. And also because it was a significantly smaller team than working at Softcom. We're just like with 300, we became like 2 at some point, 200 developers, and like the total engineering team was maybe like 20, 25. So that's like 25% of what we were at like Softcom. So it was a lot smaller, a lot more tight knit, and a lot more like rapid, just what I mentioned. With, things just changing, not much like due process with like, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that, because things were rapidly changing. So you have to kind of adapt to that. But yeah, that's pretty much my Android career up until now. I left ULSN I think less than a month ago. Yeah, I left ULSN sometime last month, less than a month ago. And yeah, I'll just briefly talk, why I left. And I didn't just leave ULSN, I left Android development, at least for now. I don't know if maybe I might come back, but I'll just briefly talk about why I left. So, okay, well, I think there's probably two reasons why I left. First is just, so like I mentioned, I started coding at a young age. I started programming when I was 10. I started doing Android development when I was 14, I guess, or 13. When I was like 14, I started doing Android development. So, or 13 actually, yeah. When I was 13, I started doing Android development. So, I mean, most people like start Android development in their 20s, and you know, they're doing it. They're doing it. They've been doing it for like maybe a few years, and it's not that, and like it's still refreshing. But then, once you've been doing that for like maybe like this is like 8 9 years now. I guess 8 years. So because I've been doing it as a hobby for so long before I even like moved into it as a career. Yeah, because I did that, it was I've had like so many times to get tired of it. So because I mean it's with every field. I just happen to have started at a really younger time, so my getting bored stage got faster in my like age wise. But yeah, and I think that's probably the first reason, just because I've been doing this for so long, and I just got not bored, but just, I'm sorry, not tired, but bored. But yeah. And then the second reason, which is the more important, I think that's like a side reason, but the second reason, more important reason is, I've been interested in like autonomous systems and vehicles, which is kind of what I'm moving into. Uh, uh, there's this stuff called DAPA. There's this stuff called DAPA Grand Challenge, which, yeah, the founder of the Udacity, this guy Sebastian Thorn, was in, which I actually knew about him before I knew about him from Udacity. But it's this, Grand Challenge stuff where you had like, like university, mostly university, like researchers and students and postgraduates that build autonomous vehicles, like not like Tesla autonomous vehicles, but like really clunky. Like imagine how the way Boston Dynamic robots look, like not refined, like sensors everywhere, everything open, not like shit like a normal car. But yeah, I used to watch those double Grand challenges when I was like a teenager back in like 2010, 2010. I used to like watch that, and like, yeah, 2020, 2011, I used to like watch that. And like that was I got really interested into autonomous vehicles, but being in Nigeria is really hard to get into that field, and just because like all those times, it's been really hard to get into the field. Not many resources to like learn, because most of the things I've been learning, I don't think I've ever taken like a full course or something. Like I have taken some Udemy courses here and there, but I never took like a full course. So it was really hard. It's hard to like get into such a niche field. Um, as someone living in Nigeria, and yeah, but I had a long interest in it, and then I recently have been able to like actually get into it, and that's like the more important reason, or the bigger reason why I'm actually leaving Android to focus on that, which, because I still enjoy doing Android. I still like work on Android projects, like side projects, just because I enjoy doing it. And yeah, so that's about where I am now, and where I'm living to. So right now I'm not like living Android. So or sorry, I'm not living like company wise. I'm not living anywhere, because I mostly work as a contractor and just doing like personal projects. Doing personal projects, building stuff related to like autonomous systems, and all I do work. I guess I should. I do work currently work as a contract interview engineer for what's it called, for a company called Card. So I guess it's the first of its kind interviewing as a service platform that kind of takes the bulk of the hiring process from tech companies, and then interviewing like lots of candidates, and then sending like a structured, detailed feedback to those companies. So that's what I do, like contract-wise, but then most of the time, working on like some personal projects and some, and then like learning and mostly what I'm doing right now is just learning, and then I guess like my next plan is to learn more, and I'm more interested in like the theory of autonomous systems. So I'm learning more about that theory, all of the math and physics behind that, and getting getting like more access to the field. Yeah, so that's my career highlight, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah, that was like incredibly interesting to listen to. I hope everyone agrees with that. Yeah, but it was really nice. I also remember that you actually taught me Kotlin back in Agrumor, because then I was still writing Java. And then and you proposed the Kotlin migration, and I didn't know Kotlin. So basically how I learned Kotlin was reading your code for like a month.
yeah.
It was a really fun period.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really hope that people have questions. I think your career is very elaborate and has so many interesting parts to it. And I wonder if anyone has questions to ask. The floor is still open. But I mean, okay, someone raised their hand. Sorry, who is it? Yeah, you can just go ahead. I can't find the person. Let me go to full screen. Yeah, Tomison. Okay.
All right. First of all, before I go like technical, you talked about being bored. About like maybe getting bored with like the current work.
Yeah.
Can you describe like say situations and maybe like signs that you noticed that you knew that you were bored with what you were doing?
Well, so I guess when I started like Android development, and my early like probably I would say pre-2019 Android development, like that was very chaotic, very wild west, and it entailed a lot of learning and figuring out, learning abstraction, learning all of these things I mentioned, learning Kotlin, learning dependency injection. But then I kind of got to a point where there were things to learn, but there weren't so many big things to learn. Like it was mostly small things that I needed to learn, and I didn't really feel like I was getting challenged with like Android development. I won't say that I know everything in Android development, but like it got to a point where there weren't that many things for me to like get into that would, really challenge me in Android development. Yeah, so that's what I mean by that. I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay, well that gives me like path signs. But going forward, you there was a project you talked about like working with I think OpenCV, and I would say these are not necessary projects that you get to work on like frequently, like maybe like as a developer. First of all, like how were you able to like what exact things where like give you direction like when you were working like on this kind of like projects? For example, like you talked about them working with like C++ and having to like manually manage memory. What gave you an institution on okay, this is where I'm supposed to go to, or this is what I'm supposed to do, on this kind of projects? Why I'm saying this is that like occasionally I've worked on say that kind of project, maybe on this kind of, in fact, that was actually even like computer vision and media streaming. And one of the like problems I always had is like, okay, like institution, like, okay, where should I go for this? Or in fact, where am I supposed to start? Do you understand? So, like, how and where did you go to seek for knowledge, or how were you able to leverage previous knowledge to know exactly like, how to like, work on this kind of, should I say, cutting edge technology, for example?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, OpenCV is actually a bad example because for most things, like the internet has a lot of resources to like kind of figure out how people did stuff. Or one of the annoying things with working with OpenCV then was that there aren't many resources with working with OpenCV in Android environment. There's some, but like there aren't as many as I needed. There weren't many like talking about memory management with OpenCV and Android. There weren't many talking about how to memory management, especially in like C++. So a lot of it was just trial and error, to be honest, just figuring out what I needed to do and like what worked, what didn't. So like for instance, the memory issue thing, I realized that once the camera has been open, like after like 30 seconds to like a minute, it starts getting slow and then eventually it just crashes because there's a memory leak that cannot be fixed. And then I had to kind of just look at the code, look at the Android profiler and figure out what was wrong. And then so it's just kind of trial and error. One of the other things, so originally we were doing like I'll say we got to be where I was doing face detection in OpenCV. I was doing that in OpenCV, but then after trying like multiple times, I realized there was no way to get, because I had to balance both accuracy and performance, and there was no way to get both at the same time with OpenCV, especially with the other things we're doing. We're doing a lot of other algorithms like k-means clustering to detect background, doing a lot of other things. So, after trying like probably like a month of just trying with OpenCV, or maybe like 2 months, to be honest, realize that, okay, let's just use Google ML Kit to handle, facial detection and face features detection. And then we can handle like background detection and all of these other color detection things we want to do on OpenCV. So a lot of those things that's just like 2 months of trial and error with OpenCV and facial detection before realizing this cannot be done. And then doing that with Google ML. Same thing with like memory management and like realizing where I should use pointers, where I should use concrete objects, and like C++ is just like try it one way, you see it doesn't work, and then try to get it in another way. Yeah. So it's mostly trial and error. But I think this is specific for OpenCV. Like most other things, if you're working with other tools, you're working with retrofit, you're working with coroutines, like there's a lot more like resources out there that you can like look up and then you can get more guidance. But like for specific niche projects like this, it's mostly just trial and error.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I can take the question from Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Hi.
So yeah, you mentioned that when you were working at ULSN, you were in an environment where you had to there were updates, there were features, and then you had to implement it. I see. My current situation in a way, it's somehow related to that. So I was just trying to maybe you can help get things involved. Like, do I try to look for a time to like cool down and automatically deploy it to the QA team for them to just test? And how do I just push? Because the features can come today, tomorrow, when that feature comes in, you are like, okay, what am I going to do about it? I don't know whether you can just help, maybe give a little insight on how you help solve that particular problem. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So with that, like CI/CD helps a lot with that. Actually, the way I did it and the way it was working with at ULSN was that I had a just a general GitHub Actions workflow that ran the general like tests, unit tests, spotness, those things. And then after that, with deployment, we essentially, I think I don't know if I got this from Toby. I think I got this from Toby as well. But yeah, like essentially like sent to like a Slack channel. And then, yeah, I think I got that from Toby. So we would send to a Slack channel with the keyway in it. And then I kind of, the original thing I got was to just send to the Slack channel, but then I integrated in, a structure where in our merge commits, in our merge requests, the pull request message would contain the details that QA needed to know, the people that it needed to get to. So we had like a PR template, and then that would get filled by whoever is making the PR, and then that would include, who needs to get it, what feature is this for, because we back at ULSing, we had like pods that were working on particular features. So like what pod is, and they had like their own product managers. So like what pod is this for? What changed? Do you like make any database changes? So all of those information will be put in the pull request, and then so the script that would send it to the Slack, channel would essentially get all of those details from the pull request, and then like construct a message, send it to the appropriate people. And so that was essentially how that structure was like. So what it did was that, like the product team comes up. I mean, it usually comes from management. Management comes with the feature, product team defines the feature, gives it to the dev. So what that happens is, instead of, everyone has to agree, and then you have to write code, deploy, and then make a manual build for that particular feature, and then send that to someone, and then everything is all scattered. There isn't really any. It's very hard for QA to know what features they are testing. So what that did was to allow QA to have like, it was really actually speeding up time more for QA than it was for like the devs, because most of the time that was taking was from the QA having to manage all of that. So what it was really doing was optimizing QA. So it would just, the QA would know, okay, yeah, this is this feature that changed. This is version, this is, and I also like, I had like a version naming system where, dev builds were called alpha and a number behind it. And then, QA builds were called beta and then a number behind it. So, the QA could look at, version 1.2.0, beta 2. So QA could, and then beta 2 contain these particular features, and then the QA could say, okay, yeah, this is what this feature is. This is what I'm testing. And then it's optimized like deployment, and we can easily get all those features out, and then they can know what features they are testing. So it actually wasn't as much of a help for like the Android devs as it was for the QA to organize that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just you said QA stuff. Thank you. I was just looking for a way like where sometimes a feature or maybe a correction needs to be made, because it's more of like a B2B sort of system. It's not like B2C,
Yeah.
where okay,
Yeah.
most of the APK is deployed personally to the businesses that needs it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just looking for a way. And sometimes
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
particular bug, or there's a particular stuff that needs to be done. I'm working on something, it's on a branch, I need to change it, somebody requested for this. So it's more of like, okay, how do I keep track of like all these changes and pushing and all this kind of, just to make sure that, okay, I'm afraid that I push something, it gets deployed that particular day to the person that needs it or the business that needs it, and something breaks. That was well, yeah, you gave me a real good insight. So thank you very much. I will.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just add that in terms of like pushing to, like a B2B, because what I did at ULSing was B2C, but at Softcom, the CI and CD we did with it was for B2B, and then we had to handle deployment. So basically, that whole process, just instead of sending to like a Slack channel, that was being sent to two places. It was sent to a Slack channel which contained like, basically it was basically just a change log of what changed with this version and where this version is currently. And then we're also sending that to the organizations that were using the application. So that also helped. Like, so that change log helped to manage what was happening in what version, or what version is currently out. Yeah. So that could also be, I don't know if you could get some insights from that.
Yeah. I got something for that. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Great.
Right. Cool. We are unfortunately out of time, and we still had like two people that wanted to ask questions, but I think we can still take them. I don't know if people are okay with this, but if you have implementation specific questions, I think it's best to reach out to Ace, maybe on Twitter or some other social media platform. So I don't know if Taslim is still wants to ask his question. I really hope it's not about CICD.
No, it's not about CICD. Yeah. So nice talk first and foremost. So my question is not really a technical question. So you mentioned that at Softcom you spent roughly 2 years, and that was the longest time you spent at the company. So there's this general opinion about job hopping that it's not beneficial to the developer. Like, I mean, when you like spend say 3 months on a code base and you're not used to the code base, blah blah blah. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Like, I mean, this is an opinionated question, but what is the like? I mean, ideal minimum time like to spend at the company? The keyword is ideal. Yeah.
I mean, ideal wise, I don't really know because it's different from people. But what I would say about like job hopping is, if you're like saying, what's it called? Saying job hopping is not good is, I think it's BS. But because I think you should be, if you're moving for your own good, I think the time really doesn't really matter if you're moving for your own good. You should look at what's beneficial. If you're working like 2 months at a place and that you do not enjoy working there at all, like 100% leave if you can. But what I would say, just like just ethically, like as just being a good person, whenever you're leaving somewhere, just make sure you either have uh, either your code, your code base, your structure is like set up so that anyone else can easily come to take it. And also, if you have other teammates and you've worked on some things that your teammates don't know about, like make sure there's proper knowledge transfer. Right? But that's just like just being a good person. I don't think that needs to be said. But yeah, but in terms of like job work, and I think any time that you any duration at which you enjoy what you're doing is an okay duration. Yeah, I don't think there's like a specific set in stone time where you should spend in a job before you leave. If you work there for 2 weeks and you don't enjoy it, feel free to leave. But yeah, like you said, it's opinionated. That's my opinion.
If I can chip in something, is there still time? Toby?
Yeah, I think there's actually no time, but so, I don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So I will just try to keep it short. But so for job hopping, so I think I've been at both ends of recruiting. So I think I kind of understand both ways. So for recruiters, right, the showstopper for them is the fact that you're going to make them do more work, because if you're like a potential job hopper, so they assume even after they give you a job, you'll probably leave, and then they will still have to like conduct interviews again, right? So I think my advice would just be, to be honest, there's no duration. If you're working in a toxic company, leave as fast as you can. Protect your mental health. But if your duration is very short in a particular company, it's probably going to be wise not to include it in your CV, right? Because I remember losing a particular year's job. They said like they feel like I've been job hopping a lot, and it was a startup. So that was one of the reasons why they didn't continue with me, right? So if the duration is probably too short, say between 0 and 6 months, you might want to probably remove it from your CV or something. Or then if it's up to a year, I think a year is fine. If you stayed for a year in a particular company, nobody should crucify you for leaving, right? So if the time is too short, probably between 0 and 6 months, you might just try to leave it out of your CV, basically.
Just one thing I would add is also in terms of like job hopping, just like to prevent job hopping in the first place is to kind of do a lot of research, not so much on the product you're working on, but also on the like work culture. Like pretty much most of the places I've worked at and I enjoyed working at are places where I either knew someone that works there or knew someone that worked there. So like doing a lot of research with like the company culture, how it is working there, will like help you get into a position where you actually enjoy working. Because I think like Softcom ULSN, which is actually fun that I is what talking, because it was the reason that I went to ULSN, because I knew someone who works there, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I know someone who works there, I know it's a good place to work. So yeah, doing research on like work culture is also will just allow you to prevent it as a whole, so you don't even have to drop off in the first place.
Yeah, that's actually very correct. Someone is asking for your Twitter account. I guess you can share it in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay. That's his handle. Yeah, there are still more questions, but I think people can just reach out on Twitter instead. Send him a DM.
Yeah, I'll try to reply.
Yeah, then I think I was going to ask for like last words. If you had one career advice you'd give to people that are just starting out or trying to figure out how to move, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, you like probably working in tech, you hear a lot about like following the money and all that, but like in my experience, and in which is like a guiding principle for me, is just doing what makes you happy, or doing what you enjoy doing the best. Like if you enjoy doing you enjoy doing I'm looking for a stack. You enjoy doing Ruby on Rails, or maybe you think there aren't that many Ruby on Rails job out there, so you want to like try doing something like personally. I would just do what you actually enjoy doing, because you get a lot better when you're doing when you're doing something that you actually enjoy doing. Like just as a quick anecdote was when I did the skill IQ thing on Plural site, and I got like the 90 something percentile. And then I also did for Python, which I had been doing professionally, like that was my actual job. And then I was like maybe 70 something percentile. So because I didn't enjoy like doing Django, I wasn't that very good at it. But Android, I wasn't even my full-time job at that point. I hadn't even done any full-time work with Android. I was able to like score a lot higher just because I actually enjoyed doing what I was doing, and I learned a lot more, like got better at it. Yeah, it's just my my guiding words, just to watch and enjoy doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right, I think that's about it for today. I really enjoyed this session, and I'm really happy that Ace was very open, sharing all the minute details about his career journey. And I really hope that people picked out one or two gems from it. And you can also reach out on Twitter if you have more questions, like two people had questions, but we can take everything. And there'll be there's a recording of the session. We would share it like later on, maybe after some post-processing or something. And I'm really grateful to everyone that showed up. Thanks for coming, and we would send the details for the next one and who the next speaker will be. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot, Ace, and have a nice weekend.
Yeah, great talking. Yeah, bye everyone.
Yeah, take care.